take the time to discuss the books that I read in July. So, first and foremost, happy August. This is my basement. You can probably hear my children upstairs. I can't guarantee that the 3-year-old won't interrupt our video, but this is probably as close I'm gonna get to a almost quiet household where I'm awake and ready to go. So I read 5 books in the month of July. 2 of them were audiobooks. One of them was From Hoping to Having by Julie Poole. And she does YouTube videos where she goes into tarot, and that's kind of how I found out about her. So I listened to her audiobook, and I love her voice, and I think it was, yeah, see, I can hear her, so you can probably hear that's my 1-year-old in her high chair eating eggs. Joys of motherhood. Anyway, yeah, so she does tarot on YouTube, so that's how I kind of came about her. So yeah, From Hoping to Having was an audiobook I read. Then there was another audiobook that I read called That's Not How It Happened, and it was written by Craig Thomas, who was one of the creators for How I Met Your Mother. I learned about that because I've been listening to their How We Made Your Mother podcast and rewatching that because that is one of my favorite TV shows. So I listened to that as an audiobook, and I thought it was just amazing, and I loved that he used Josh Radnor and Kobe Smulders from How I Met Your Mother to narrate the male and female leads, and then he used an actual person with Down syndrome. I don't know if that was the actual son, but to do his part. So I think representation is important, and I think that we need to give those people voices, because too often not, I mean, like the female character said in that book, too often than not, if you have like a story about a child with Down syndrome, it's inspiring. And like if Hollywood does a movie about it, it's always some person who doesn't have Down syndrome that play those characters, and such a daring, inspiring role for them to be able to do so. So those were the 2 audiobooks I read. I kind of like half read this book, half listened to it on audiobook because it's so long. But this is Malcolm X, the autobiography of Malcolm X, is told by Alex Haley. And I did love the audiobook because Lawrence Fishburne narrates it, does an amazing job. But yeah, this was my husband's book. He had it on a shelf for quite some time, and I was going to read it like a year ago, and I just didn't get to it, but I'm glad I did get to it this time. I mean, essentially, we all know about Malcolm X or are familiar with his accomplishments, but I think it's important to actually read his story, because I do think the media at the time in the 60s vilified him because he was Muslim, and they said he hates white people, which is not true at all. He just hates the system of bringing down black men, because black men are the ones that are still today not looked upon as part of our society to certain degrees. And I didn't really like the comments he made about women. But again, it's from the 60s, and I do think he loves women. But like in the Muslim faith, I guess like the way partnerships and marriages is not like how non-religious people have marriage, or at least not how I do or view marriage. But anyway, regardless, very, very good read, highly intelligent man. Yeah, he actually read a lot in prison, which is like, I think that's what got him to educate himself and go into the Muslim faith and to be an advocate for black men. And so, yeah, it was yeah, see, it's almost 500 page. I knew it was a thick one. That took me most of July. I'm going to touch upon a book that I did not completely finish. I got 60% of the way through. So here we go. It's Credence by Penelope Douglas. And it's a beautiful cover, beautiful painted edges. But that's about it. The beginning was interesting, and I won't go into spoilers, but about how she lost her parents and had to move in with their stepbrother, her uncle who's their stepbrother. It's a little confusing, but anyway, I like the setting of the story. I like the side characters, but it got to a point in the book, and I guess I will spoil it for you. Sorry about that. Got to a point in the story where it's pretty much incest. Incest. With multiple different people participating in the incest. And I have problems with that. That was a no-no. Once I got to that point, I was like, done. Can't read any more of that filth. So I do not want to donate this book because I don't want anybody else to have to suffer. Gave it a 2.5. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mention what ratings I got the other books. I believe I gave this a 4.75. The From Hoping to Having, solid 4. The That's Not How It Happened, I believe I gave that a 4.5-ish. Yeah, anyway, I guess the ratings aren't really that important. And they shouldn't be. Ratings are subjective. They're how you perceive a book. So my rating should not have any bearing on if you read a book or not. And the last book that I just finished reading yesterday, I made it to the deadline, is Nobody's Normal. How Culture Created the Stigma of Mental Illness by Roy Richard Greger. This is one of those like gems that you find at a used book sale. So I think I've mentioned this before, but my local library does used book sales at the end of each month, and this was one of those books that my husband just grabbed. Like, this was like a while ago, months and months back, not any time recently. We haven't been to a book sale recently, which makes me kind of sad. We should go back to doing that. Anyway, so this was one of those gems that you find. It was like a 50-cent book, but seriously, like, it was very informative. I'm glad I read that after the shithole that, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can say shithole, the crap hole that was Credence. Well, if YouTube takes down this video or I get in trouble, anyway. Yeah, so I'm glad I read this after that, because I'll just be quite honest with you. In the month of July, I was diagnosed with bipolar 2. So that is not the same as bipolar 1. Bipolar 2, you have more stretches of irritability and depression. So when I noticed that, like, every month around my period, I do also have PMDD. But when I was realizing that every month I'd have the same pattern of being irritable or being really depressed, I knew I had to do something, so I took it upon myself to see a therapist and a psychiatrist. They've diagnosed me with bipolar 2. I'm on a mood stabilizer, which has been helping. I just had a conversation with my psychiatrist yesterday, and she says, like, my scale for, that scale, I don't know the scientific term, but my scale for my feelings and everything has gone down instead of up, so it's in the right direction. So yeah, I do think it's going well. well, TMI, I'm on my period now and I feel fine. Well, just a little bloated and normal female things, but anyway. So, suffice it to say, I was really into mental health and finding more about what the heck, I was so afraid to go see somebody about it and explain my whole situations, like be like fully honest, because the stigma of being labeled bipolar. So you know what, I'm throwing it out there to you guys all. I have bipolar 2. I'm on a mood stabilizer. My husband's noticed a change, my family's noticed a change for the better. So anyway, so that book delves into stigma, and that's the problem. We have such stigma around admitting that we have an illness, and it's a mental illness and not a disorder. Disorder implies that there's an actual order to the brain, which that's not true. Everybody's brains are so complex and different that what's normal for one person is not normal for another. So nobody's normal. That's the whole crux of the argument. Nobody's normal, and we need to embrace that. And we need to treat mental illness just the same way we would treat a physical illness. Take care of yourself, self-care. I go to therapy, I take my medication because I'm mentally ill. So, but anyway, that's what I read for the month of July. I'm looking forward to August, and I gotta finish out these summer reads. So, enjoy your reading. Bye.